We change the design every year.
Okay.
This year we have this kind of mandala in the middle that shows the sun and the moon kind of as a single unity that maybe represents the masculine and the feminine, or the lighter, the dark, or all those kind of polar opposites. But then we also have at each corner, we have our favorite neighborhood trees that are drawn into the landscape. So you're standing right beside the apple tree, which is actually right over here.
I see it.
This tree over here is the English walnut that's just above us.
Fun.
And then this is a pink flowering dogwood. So in the early spring, it just puts on a spectacular show right around the Sherrett communication station there. And then this is very magical and powerful Douglas fir that was recently had to be cut down, but it is memorialized in our images.
So it's still here in
hearts.
spirit.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm in Portland, Oregon, in a little section in the southeast part of town, only a few blocks from the Willamette River in the Willamette Valley, Portland, Oregon, and I am with Mighk Simpson, who's a permaculture educator and urban planner and a neighbor in this lovely neighborhood. It's really beautiful. We're at the corner of Southeast Sherrett Street and Southeast 9th Avenue, and there's a lot of fun happening behind us. Tell us a bit about this.
Well, we call this Sherrett Square, spelled S-H-A-R-E, so it's a play on words, and this is the 19th consecutive year that we have come together, gathered as a community in the spring to paint our intersection together.
Why do you paint an intersection? I mean, it's beautiful, but what's that about?
Well, the first time it happened back in 1996, it really happened as a kind of spontaneous and creative upswelling of energy where people were kind of starting to gather around a different project that was actually called the Tea House. And I wasn't actually around at that time, but the city came to shut this tea house down, which was this very whimsical, beautiful structure where people had been gathering for potlucks. And the neighborhood was told that it was just right on the corner of the intersection here, and people were told that because it was an unpermitted structure, it had to come down. But all these relationships had been built, and creative energy had just been really unleashed, and so people asked themselves, well, we need a commons. Our neighborhoods are lacking commons. They're lacking places for people to gather. They're lacking public space and squares in our residential neighborhoods.
Which we did have in our history nearly everywhere.
Sure.
Not until recent times.
Absolutely. I mean, cultures around the world build places for one another to gather, but in this colonial settler culture, the commons have effectively been eradicated. So this is kind of part of what people were coming to grips with and coming to understand, is that we're lacking public space. And so, as I mentioned, there was just a kind of creative expression that occurred in this intersection where people decided that, why not create public space right here in our neighborhoods, and questioning the fact that the only public space that we do have are these roads and streets, which are predominantly used for cars. And so we're very influenced by placemaking and some of the urban planning theory around placemaking. We're also some of us are very influenced by permaculture design as well, where we're kind of actually looking at the urban context in a whole system. And so we're looking at all the different elements rather than just looking at our own individual little plots of ownership. And so we're kind of starting to come together and build connections with one another and re-village the urban landscape.
I know that many people think of permaculture primarily in terms of food growing, right? Food forests and gardens and water usage on the landscape and so on. And for me, this expands what permaculture is about, that it has to include the people part of it,
absolutely.
And the social relations.
Well, especially in the urban context, because much of the foundational theories around permaculture were created with more of a rural landscape in mind, so there would have been less density. But when you're looking at an urban fabric, an urban context, there's really kind of people all around. So just as we think of microclimates in an ecological sense and different shady or cool spots and wet and dry spots, we're also kind of looking at social microclimates in different ways. So little quiet places that we can create on the block for people to have more solitude, or big festive gathering spaces like this. So, many celebrations have occurred in the past 19 years here.
Wow.
People have been married in these streets.
Really?
Birthdays happen here. We shut the intersection down numerous times per year to just gather around food and celebration, as you see today. And most importantly, many of us have really gotten to know one another and developed really meaningful relationships with one another in a way that you wouldn't typically see in
most people
an American
may know the
neighborhood.
neighbors next door and maybe the back fence, but not in a broader sense. And I would imagine that for families, it's fun to find the other kids, and people have shared interests in all of that.
Absolutely, and I think also very importantly, people have built those relationships and used them to collaborate on other projects all throughout the neighborhood. So, for instance, within the last couple of years, we've just been working with our neighbors, but also with our municipal officials to reclaim other unused public spaces in the neighborhood for purposes of gathering space, ecological restoration, creating food forests in the neighborhood. So and we also have a number of different little community garden plots around here that we've just created in people's yards that we are stewarding together and growing vegetables together as a community. So the spin-offs of creating public space are really, really immense, and not only have they impacted our neighborhood, but the outcome of our efforts to legalize what we're doing here have also created a precedent for other neighborhoods throughout Portland. So there's actually several dozen intersection repairs, as we call them now, existing throughout Portland, and there are more and more coming online or being reoccupied, reclaimed every year.
And I hear more and more in the world, elsewhere
Absolutely.
in the world.
What we are doing is really being looked at as a model and an example for community building and placemaking.
I noticed when we came biking through here, I noticed that there's something unique at each of the corners of this intersection.
Yes,
so let's give folks a little tour, starting here.
As you mentioned, part of the placemaking efforts that we're making, it's more than just coming together to create beautiful art in the street. We're actually trying to facilitate connection and encounter with one another. And so one of the ways that we're doing that is by creating little spaces of interaction. So this is a little book station where people bring books, and there's different books here every day, and you never quite know what you're going to find. Sometimes it's packed full, and sometimes not. But I think that one of the beautiful things about this example of just a placemaking intervention is just how simple it is.
Yeah.
It's just some little scraps of plywood and an old recycle window. It's something that really could be erected in several hours with quite a bit of ease.
Bring a book, take a book. Reading is magic. Teach your dog to read. Don't forget to read between the lines. And the Sherrett librarian here never says shh. I love it. That's sweet.
Yeah, one other thing I'd just like to mention about this little book station is kind of an inspiration for me, because just as Sherrett Square set a precedent that has been repeated and in people's own creative ways throughout the city and beyond, this little book station has actually been replicated hundreds of times now throughout North America, and this is the first one that we know of.
Is that right?
Yeah, but
they're all over.
We've been reading articles in the press that talk about this movement of people creating little public book exchanges.
Right.
So I think what this tells us is how simple acts in your place, where you live, re-inhabiting your place, actually have much broader impacts, and there's this kind of homeopathic effect that occurs when we intervene in one place, and it has these kind of ripples that...
It's your own version of going, this has gone viral.
It's effectively, it's gone viral before the internet even existed.
Yes, yes. a good idea, meeting needs and letting people share it, with things. It's part of the movement.
So here we have one of our cob benches, one of the 2 cob benches that we have here at the intersection. It didn't take us long to realize that we didn't even have places to sit in our neighborhoods, and so we wanted to do something about that because, the ability to sit is one way to just inhabit the space. So these benches, as much as possible, we're really trying to exemplify natural building techniques and use recycled and reclaimed materials, partly because we want to model things that anyone can do on a very low to no budget whatsoever. So this bench is made from cob, which is a mixture of sand and clay, and it's been sculpted by the hands of the very people who live here, and it's infused with stories and symbology that tell the story of where we are here in Sherrett Square.
I see rock, including some river rock.
That's right.
And this lovely structure. I mean, are these local trees that they kept in the ground?
Yeah, I mean, we have lots of fruit trees in this neighborhood, and so every year we have to be pruning in order to kind of keep things shaped the way we want to, fitting into their context. So we're trying to always use as much of that material as we can and incorporate it into the products.
And we're in Portland, so it has to have a roof.
It does, in order to protect from the rain.
Right. Great. Why don't you show me the next intersection, because it has cob too.
Okay.
Right?
Let's go. Watch your step. Well, this is another cob structure. So again, it's made from natural materials that come from the landscape around us here. And one day it will turn into soil again without creating pollution. But what it actually is, it functions as a dispensary for our neighborhood newspaper, which is called The Bee. So the newspapers go in here, and they're published monthly. And because the newspaper is called The Bee, we've sculpted a little beehive for the bee that has little bees on it as well. Yeah, so again,
and even little crystals inside.
Inside,
it's
and
magic.
Yeah, so again, everything that we create is really sculpted with the story and the symbology of our place, rather than being just kind of homogenous fixtures in the neighborhood.
This has that kind of, it has stories around it.
That's right. And you'll notice that it doesn't have a roof on it like the previous structure we looked at, and that's because we very diligently coat it with linseed oil and beeswax in order to seal it from the rain.
Beeswax.
That's right.
Perfect. Although, it does have the most curious top.
Yeah, it's got a little metal hat.
It's sweet. Mm-hmm. And behind it, over here, is the Sherrett Square Communication Station.
Yeah.
So you've got a blackboard, and some little cupboards, is it?
Yeah, so oftentimes people leave little information bulletins or zines or whatever it is that they want to share in here of events going on, but probably even more commonly people come to the square almost on a daily basis and just leave little messages for people, and sometimes they're just little well wishes to the world.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and other times, it's wishing people happy birthday, or inviting the community over for a potluck dinner on Friday, or, to share some of the beer that someone just brew from our local neighborhood hops, or whatever it may be. So this serves a very important function in
do people ever put things in here? I was thinking, like, if you have too much produce of some kind, have they ever put anything like that in there?
Yeah, there has been, not necessarily in here so much, but that kind of thing. Over the years, there's been numerous different iterations of these little placemaking stations around on the corners of the intersection. At one point, there was actually a big music stage, and I think it was set up right here. It was before I lived in the neighborhood, but people would come and
just jam?
And just jam, and there'd be performances and festivities and festivals right in the middle of the street here.
You make me think that it would make this an incredibly desirable neighborhood to buy into, rent into, and just for that part, just for the sociability kind of it. Let's see. Well, I noticed that there are a lot of youngsters, and we've got youngsters' bikes here, out here playing today. And that little next intersection square,
It's their
looks like
place.
it's their place.
It is. Let's go check it out.
The kids' clubhouse. Now, it looks like on this day, this is the place to be.
It's very well used, absolutely. I mean, the children and youth in this neighborhood play a very central role in a lot of what we do. Oftentimes, it's the children who design the image that we paint, because we paint a different image on the square every year. And they have also designed their playhouse of choice. It has this wonderful, magical linden tree growing right out of it, and people come and, just like the book exchange, people bring toys here and to offer, and people will take a toy and leave a toy and play and climb, and I'm not even exactly sure what all goes on in here, but maybe we should ask.
It's kids' magic place, huh? You know what I love is the doorway is short, which means it's for short people. I mean, we're visitors. It's your place.
You want to walk?
Yeah.
You don't even need to.
I can see it's fun. There's little shelves, little magical places to hide things. Another big toy box.
This is also a passion flower vine that grows around the sides of it here. And,
It struck me that this was the corner that most attracted me. Now I don't know what that says. It was like I never had a playhouse, and this would be a place for a playhouse for big kids too. But I'm glad the kids have their own space. That's important. And let's go to the fourth corner and see what we got there.
I forgot to mention the honeysuckle, but it doesn't matter. Kind of a plant nerd.
I think I'm going to put the lid on that. Hey, I'll eat about you.
Oh, yeah?
Yummy sugar.
Did your daddy say that's okay?
Okay, so we're standing here at what we very lovingly call the world-famous self-service 24-hour solar-powered tea station at Sherrett Square, and this is a place where people can come at any time of the day, any day of the week, or any week of the year to fill their mugs with warm water that's filled by our neighbors who live around the area here, and there's always little bags
tea
of
bag or so.
tea available. And the solar panel on the roof here actually powers a little light, so you can come at night as well.
Oh, that's what makes it 24-hour.
Exactly.
How sweet.
Yeah.
How sweet. And so you've got the tea and little stands, nice granite for things.
Yeah, and
Inviting.
yeah, there's actually like a kind of a history of tea associated with the city repair movement and what we're doing here. I had mentioned earlier that this whole kind of creative energy was first galvanized around a tea house.
Right, that's right.
A tea house that was called the tea house, the Moon Day Tea House that was right on the corner here. And shortly after that, people created, because the tea house got shut down, they created a mobile tea horse that actually traveled throughout the city and kind of created these little temporary autonomous spaces where people could, the wings of this tea horse would unfurl and create spaces for people to gather. Cushions would come out, and free chai would be served all around the neighborhood. So here we have our permanent little 24-hour tea station here at Sherrett Square, where we can always be sharing tea with one another.
With lovely little granite scraps and glass scraps. I mean, it's again that same aesthetic that you mentioned of salvaged materials, reused materials. But what I'm noticing is they're particularly beautiful.
Yeah.
And people have done this very lovingly.
Absolutely.
And including the little skirt on the on the cart.
Yeah.
It's inviting.
Yeah, what I really love is that everyone who has participated in creating this space has their own character and their own artistic creation, and literally their hands are infused in the places that we inhabit. So that's very different than the way most intersections are built.
Yeah, the signal pole, and it doesn't have the kind of story and playfulness and reused windows and all of that
Well, over here we have another little cob bench, little earthen bench that we sometimes refer to as the angel bench because it has an angel
I see the wings. I see the wings here.
sculpted into it. And and there's a living roof on top.
The living roof has plants growing in it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to water it, or?
It's mostly sedums that can seasonally dry out, and then when they get a little bit of rain, they really kind of perk up again. And,
Does it require any care?
once in a while, but very minimal amount of care. Yeah, it could probably use a little bit of a weeding. You can see some grasses up there, but it's really not too big of a problem.
So this too is cob.
Yes, that's correct. This is cob.
Well, thank
Yeah, and
you.
people really love it.
I can see that. I mean, it's being well loved today and well used. I'd like to take just a last moment to sort of get a bird's eye view of the painting that's been going on behind us, so we can see what's in the square and what it looks like. So let's find a spot where we can do that.
Okay, sounds great.
Mighk, tell us what they're painting this year. For
Sure.
This theme.
Yeah, well, we change the design every year.
Okay.
This year, we have this kind of mandala in the middle that shows the sun and the moon kind of as a single unity that maybe represents the masculine and the feminine, or the lighter and the dark, or all those kind of polar opposites. But then we also have, at each corner, we have our favorite neighborhood trees that are drawn into the landscape. So you're standing right beside the apple tree, which is actually right over here.
Okay, I see
Then
it.
this tree over here is the English walnut that's just above us.
Fun.
And then this is a pink flowering dogwood. So in the early spring, it just puts on a spectacular show right around the Sherrett communication station there. And then this is very magical and powerful Douglas fir that was recently had to be cut down, but it is memorialized
Nice.
in our images,
So it's
but
still
also
here
in our
in
hearts.
spirit.
Yeah, and then you have this kind of whimsical feature where all four of the homes around on the corners of the square have also been painted in, and they're kind of flying on the backs of these whimsical birds.
That's this house.
That would be this house right here.
With like a dove or something and the clouds below it. So we've got flying houses.
Yeah, that's right. All four of the houses are flying through the intersection.
Oh, it sounds like a wonderful blend. You've had trees in the theme before.
Yeah, actually, these trees were our leftovers from last year. We're repainting them, of course, but we love them so much that we decided we wanted them to be part of the design again another year. And then every year we create this brick border with these white stripes.
When I came biking through and saw the white stripes, it was like they were saying, something's happening, something's
Yeah.
different, pay attention here, wake
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Kind of
and
a
they
notion.
represent
Maybe
the-
slow the traffic, perhaps.
That's right. Yeah, it represents the crossroads and the four directions, and really they're indicating that there's an encounter about to happen.
About to happen, and it does. What an encounter, what a gift. I wanted to ask you about City Repair, which is kind of an unusual name, and it's part of
Yeah.
the catalyst for this kind of work, yes?
Yeah, in some ways it's the catalyst. In some ways it was birthed from what is happening here. So as back in the mid-90s, as people were creating space and reclaiming their neighborhood in this way, right here where we're standing, as I mentioned before, it created a precedent for this to be happening in other neighborhoods. So people who were living here at this time found themselves as facilitators working with other communities throughout the city to let them know how they can do this too. And so that became known as the city repair movement. It's this idea that we can re-inhabit and decolonize our urban and repair our broken urban relationships, both the ecological and the social relationships, one place, one space, one neighborhood or intersection at a time. So the city repair movement kind of emerged with this neighborhood, and not everyone in the neighborhood necessarily identifies as City Repair, but City Repair is now an organization that helps other communities do this kind of work.
And in fact, this week, thereabouts, this part of May, City Repair is one of the sponsors for what you guys call the Village Building
Convergence. Yeah.
So in neighborhoods throughout Portland this week or so, people are doing similar projects.
Yes, that's
and
correct.
Getting together and hearing speakers and
Yes, so this is
more community building.
Yeah, this is Village Building Convergence number 14, and it's a 10-day long festival of placemaking, natural building, permaculture, urban agriculture that happens this year in 42 sites throughout Portland.
Wow.
And so it's really dispersed throughout the days with people from all over the city and visitors from out of town are working on getting their hands dirty, re-inhabiting spaces, and then there's centralized gatherings in the evening every night with keynote speakers and sharing food and dancing together. So it's a really, really wonderful time. You know, it's really like our favorite thing that we do here in Portland every year. And yeah, we really welcome people to come and visit us for Village Building Convergence 15, which will be next year, and for all the years to come after that.
May it continue long.
Yeah.
May it spread far.
Yes.
May the fun deepen and more neighbors having fun together and building beauty together and sharing together. I like this kind of reclaiming.
Yeah, please
Thank you.
visit us and get your hands dirty with us as
I
well.
think I've already got paint, so
Yeah, I'm
we're,
sure you do.
we're on our way.
Great.
You're watching Peak Moment TV. I'm Janaea Donaldson at Sherrett Square, the Village Building Convergence. I'm with Mighk Simpson. Thank you for that tour. Thank you for the beauty. I hope this happens all over the world. Join us next time.